Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to your Wednesday night Awakening Soul Force Live. Tonight we're doing a special edition of Awakening Wednesday. In that, tonight we're not just going to do an Awakening Wednesday challenge like we have done in the past, where we tune in and see how our intuitive senses are working. Tonight I want to go back to the basics. And tonight I want to talk about the intuitive senses, what they are, how many we've got, how we work with them, and how you can recognize them moving forward. So that's what's on the agenda tonight. If you're here, go ahead and let me know. It looks like I'm finally seeing some folks pop in. Give me a wave, give me a hello, give me a hola, ¿cómo estás? Let me know you're here. Last night's session was so great. Tarot Tuesday was a pleasure last night. I had such a blast. It was such a great group, so engaged. Really had a good time. Tab says no secret envelope. Not tonight, Tab. No secret envelope this evening. Hi, Angie. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Nice to see you here once again. Hey, Ashley. Rebecca. Holler. I haven't heard anybody say that in a long time. That's funny. I've not heard the holler thing in a long time. Holler back at ya. Welcome, everyone. So tonight we'll do a little good news in a minute. I'll read off a good news story that I found today, which was pretty cool. And then we're going to dive into what is going to be more like an intuition workshop. So this is sort of a truncated version of what I was doing on the road before COVID hit. So I was traveling around doing workshops on intuition. So tonight we're going to do kind of a truncated version of that without the long meditation at the end. We're mostly going to just talk about breaking down the intuitive senses, what they are, how they work, and then giving you a little bit of a demonstration on how how the information intuitively arises. So it should be a good refresher, because I know there's a lot of new people in the group. So I wanted to offer it up so people could kind of get back to the basics if we've never had this conversation before. And then also for those who are brand new, it'll be an introduction. Hi, Deanna. Thanks for buying the book, Deanna. I'm so excited to be able to share that with you. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the material, and I hope that it's helpful too. So it's cool. Yeah, you mentioned something about the chakras, and tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the chakras and how they influence and interact with our intuition. So it's something I don't really go into in the book because it's really more of an introduction to the chakras and how they work. But the evolution, though, after you go through the foundation of what's laid in the book, I'm going to expand on that a little bit tonight. So I'll talk a little bit about which chakra is connected to which intuitive sense. So some good stuff to know. All right, people. Diaz says, I can't wait to be schooled. What's happening, Travis? Welcome, my friend. Hello. All right, folks, so let's dive into some good news, shall we? While we kill some more time before other people pop on. So tonight, I want to read you a story coming from New Jersey, and I'm going to read the article word for word because it's a really good little article. It's not too long, but a great story titled, Since the Pandemic Closed His Business, New Jersey Man Has Made Over 500 Shopping Trips for Seniors. So this is a wonderful demonstration of humanity turning a sort of a complicated and disruptive situation into something beautiful and human. The owner of a New Jersey frame shop has been unable to operate his business since late March. But that hasn't stopped him from taking over 500 trips to the grocery store for free for seniors staying at home to avoid exposure to the novel coronavirus. Making deliveries is nothing new for Greg Daly. He has risen at 4 a.m. every morning to deliver newspapers for the past 25 years. What had always been a second job has now turned into his main source of income and an innovative way to be generous. It all started when an 88-year-old woman on his East Windsor route asked him to throw the newspaper closer to her door so that she wouldn't have to walk far to get it. He obliged, without thinking much of it at the time. It was a few days later, in line at a grocery store, that he thought of her again. He thought, if she can't walk 20 feet to get her newspaper, how is she getting groceries? So he called her and he asked her if she needed anything. Being tremendously grateful for his request, she asked him to pick up one small order for her and one for her neighbor across the street. It was then Greg thought about the hundreds of other senior customers along his route and how he could make a world of a difference for them. So he decided to offer his services in a note attached to each newspaper that he delivered. The need turned out to be enormous, and before long, Greg's wife, 3 children, and mother-in-law began to help in any way they could, answering the phone and taking shopping trips of their own. His tech-savvy 24-year-old daughter, Erin, created a spreadsheet system to keep track of the orders, right down to the discount codes for each customer. While he does his best to coordinate with people via emails, Greg still accepts notes on doors for customers who find using technology difficult. Pretty awesome. So it just kind of goes on to say that he has worked every single day except Easter Sunday doing this, delivering papers and delivering meals on the paper route. They usually start in the morning and then end around 7 p.m. So pretty awesome. Hi, Mary. Welcome. Pretty awesome little story out of New Jersey. This guy, his second income as a newspaper delivery guy turned into a way for him to make a difference for people that for seniors who are having trouble getting out of the house and getting groceries. So just a really cool story, great display of humanity, and that's a little bit of good news for you to start off this Awakening Soul Force live on Wednesday night. Okay, everybody. Now that our spirits are a little lifted with a little bit of good news, let's talk tonight about Intuition 101. Basically, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of our intuition, how it works, the chakras that each intuitive sense is connected to, and just talk about what it basically is. So if you have any questions in general, any questions about intuition or getting intuitive information or your psychic senses, go ahead and drop some comments in the chat so that we can address those. So if you have any general ones, just lay them out there. I'm going to start off by describing just a little bit in general of what the intuitive senses are and how they work. And then I'm going to go through each one, and with each one we're going to do a little demonstration. So we'll spend a little bit of time with each intuitive sense. I'll talk about it, and then I'm going to turn it to you. In that way, over there, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can go ahead and give it a little test try and see how information may arise for you. Okay, so any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to address them as we go along. But first, let's just do a quick breakdown of how the intuitive senses work. Like, what is intuition? And really, in my experience, because all I can speak from is my own experience, working with my intuition and working with energy, is our intuitive senses are really no different than the 5 physical senses that we experience the physical world with. So our ability to see, touch, taste, hear, and smell are basically the 5 physical senses. And we can think of our intuitive senses as really just a more sensitive extension of those physical senses. So you'll notice that when I go through each of the names, they have a fancy name, Claire something. The Claire prefix means clear, and then the word that follows, voyance, audience, cognizance, those words are all connected to, what you'll find is they're connected to one of the 5 physical senses, essentially. So essentially they're just extensions of our 5 physical senses, but because we are working with energy, we're actually going to tap into each one of the chakras. So we have 7 main chakras in the body. And these are the ones that we're going to focus on and learn about. These are the ones that I talk about in the book, Awakening Soul Force. And these are the ones that I'm going to talk about tonight. When you download the Awakening Soul Force album, the chakra balancing meditation that is on there is connected to these 7 chakras. So there are 7 main chakras that I call them our energetic spine. So I do this as the spine because it's straight up and down. So up the center of our body, we obviously have a spinal cord, and this is responsible for keeping us upright. It maintains our structural integrity of the physical body. So if you think of it in that way, the energetic structure of our energetic body runs along that same line, right down the midline of the body, and it begins at the base of the spine and then runs to the crown of the head. So there are 7 energy centers, or we could call them energy vortexes. The word chakra in Sanskrit literally translates into a spinning wheel. So these are basically spinning wheels of energy. And each one of these 7 wheels of energy is connected to not only a different intuitive sense, but a different aspect of our energetic being and our electromagnetic field as a human. So starting at the base, we have the root chakra. It's the color red. And then we move up. That's the base of the spine, the very tip of the tailbone. Then we move up and we move into the sacral chakra, which is the color orange. And this is located about 3 inches below the navel. Then moving just above the navel, we have the solar plexus. I'm pointing to it, but you can't see it because the image is cropped too tight. So just a couple of inches above the belly button is the solar plexus. This is connected to the energy of it is yellow. Then we move up into the heart chakra, and this is green. And this is basically the bridge between what are considered the lower chakras or earthbound chakras. The solar plexus, the sacral chakra, and the root chakra are considered basically, they're the earthbound chakras. They are very closely connected to the physical body and the physical experience. Now the heart center and the heart chakra is sort of the bridge between the earthbound chakras and the upper or spiritual chakras that we're going to talk about next. So the lower chakras govern more the physical aspect of our reality, our physical health and well-being, our ability to reproduce, our emotions, our ability to move through the world, take action. Those are some of the things that they deal with. Then we move into the heart and the upper chakras or the upper spiritual chakras. The throat chakra is up next, and that's at the base of the spine. It's the color blue. The energy center is blue. And then we'll go to the third eye chakra, which is in the center of the forehead. And then finally, and this is this is indigo. And then the crown chakra, depending on kind of where you learn and what you study, sometimes this is connected to just pure white light, but very often violet is the color of the crown chakra. So those are the 7 main energy centers that govern our energetic system, our energetic body, but also these are the foundation of our intuitive senses. So for those of you who have watched the intuitive readings that go up on Thursdays, or if I've read for you privately, you probably notice sometimes I do my thing, I get quiet, I tune in and I'll say, oh, my attention's being drawn to my root chakra. And then I'll kind of I'll feel into that information a little bit and see what's coming up. Like, what am I feeling? What am I sensing? So essentially the way my intuition works is it has become sort of a map. You know, it's become a quick reference point to guide me to the area of someone's life that we are going to focus on. So because each one of these energy centers governs a physical aspect of our body, and it also governs a mental, emotional, or a spiritual aspect of our body. And then there's a subtle aspect of it as well. So, you know, it can be a little bit complex, and I'm not going to get into all the nuts and bolts of that now. That's why I wrote the book, because it gets that foundation, explains that a little bit more in detail. But if you know the chakras, centers, and you're familiar with them and you learn how to connect with them, you're really on the path to waking up your intuition and becoming a little bit more in tune with subtle energy. Because our chakras, essentially, the way I like to describe it is, it's where we metabolize energy. It's where the give and take, the flow of energy is both expressed and taken in between us and the world around us. So it kind of acts like a filter, and it's where these little centers are where we metabolize energy. So when energy that's in flow with us, that resonates with us, is being passed back and forth fluidly, then the energies are open, harmonized, and they are not blocked. But if a chakra is blocked, it may become blocked by unexpressed energy. It may be energy that we're not open to, we're not allowing it to flow. So really, when it comes to talking about chakras and talking about intuition, what we're really talking about is the flow of energy and information that is constantly being exchanged between us all the time. The only difference is it's really, really, really subtle. So if I clap my hands like this, it's a very physical sensation that I can feel. There's a loud, there's like a loud sound that I can hear with my ears. When we're working with subtle energy, it's not quite, it works the same way, but it doesn't kind of appear the same way. It's much more gentle, it's much more subtle, and it requires a lot of awareness, and in my opinion, a lot of stillness. Stillness is what has allowed me to really open up to my intuitive senses. So let's go ahead, at this point, open it up to any questions about the chakras and the intuitive senses. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over. Otherwise, I will start getting into each one of the intuitive senses, and then we'll do a little demonstration with each one so that you at home can kind of follow along and figure out which of your intuitive senses might be a little stronger. So the thing I like to tell people is that just like some of us are born with the ability to play sports really well, like we come out of the womb and we've got it in our DNA, we're athletes. We've got great balance, hand-eye coordination is all there. And then someone else, maybe not so much. Or maybe someone is born with a real aptitude for music. And that person that was born as an athlete, maybe not so much. Just like people have different skills and kind of genetic predispositions that they're stronger in, our intuition works very much the same way. There are certain intuitive senses that we're going to be much more connected to, and a good indicator of which intuitive senses are going to be strong with us can be found in some of our interests and the things that we're good at. So I'm going to go over those kinds of things, the things that we're drawn to, things that we really enjoy doing, or things that we're good at can often be a very good indicator of which chakras are open and flowing we're really connected to. Those also can be a quick way into understanding, oh, this intuitive sense might be really strong for me. Okay, so I don't see any questions popped up, so let's go ahead and talk about, let's dive in, and we'll start at the top and work our way down from the crown chakra down to the root. So our crown chakra is technically our direct connection to source. It's our direct connection to God and divine consciousness and universal awareness, loving awareness, however we want to conceive of it. So this is connected to an intuitive sense known as claircognizance. So claircognizance stands for clear knowing. So the crown chakra is responsible for claircognizance as well as the heart chakra. So we're starting here. I wanted to start at the top, but technically we get clear knowings both as kind of like downloads or impressions that come through the crown or also through the heart chakra. Looks like Mary has a question. Oh, she says, thanks for doing this for us. I woke up this morning and put on my chakra bracelet. Oh, cool. Awesome. So this is a perfect day to talk about chakras for you. So claircognizance is clear knowing. Clear knowing is when you know that you know something, but you don't know how that you just know it. And I think a lot of us have had that experience when we just know something's up. And it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. It's just something that comes to us and we don't know why. It's not rational, it's not logical. We just kind of get what people will call like an intuitive hit. This can come through the crown chakra and also through the heart chakra. This can be a very common intuitive sense for people who are very religious, people who are, that dabble with mysticism, mystics, people who, like people that work intuitively as healers, like doctors can often kind of just have like a clear knowing. They just have a sense that something, they know where to go. They know that something's wrong with the patient, or they know right where to go to find it, but they don't know how they know. There's an instinct there, right? Very often this comes through the heart again, or the crown. People that are highly intellectual, writers, poets, this can be a very strong intuitive sense for people that maybe have an aptitude for those things. So claircognizance is really the simplest of them all because it's just a clear knowing. And the one thing I like to stress about this is the speed of the information and the efficiency and the accuracy is just spot on. There's no questioning it. So the way I like to kind of test this one, we're going to go ahead and do it now. So if you're at home now, what I would like you to do is go ahead and take 3 big clearing breaths. We'll do 3 big energy clearing breaths. And then I'm going to ask you a few questions. And I want you to answer the questions without thinking. And you're just going to go with that first response that comes out. And I want you to pay attention to how quickly and how effectively and efficiently that this answer arises and how assuredly it comes out. Because this is an example of how a clear knowing intuitively arises. All right? So here we go. We're going to take 3 big deep breaths. Close your eyes. Take a big deep breath in through your nose. Exhale. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale. One more time, big deep breath in, settling into the here and now. Now I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to respond in as few words as possible. First thing that comes to your mind, and this is going to be an example of how claircognizant information comes through. Here we go. What is your name? Where were you born? Are you alive? What were you born to do? All right. That simple. I'd be curious when I ask, what were you born to do? I would love to see your responses. Go ahead and give me a response there. But notice I asked you very simple questions that you know the answer to already. What is your name? Where were you born? Are you alive? Hopefully you all answered yes to that question. And then I asked you a question. Now that we were in that flow, 1, 2, 3, what were you born to do? And I'd be very curious to hear what answer came to you. What just popped out in as few words as possible. Let me know what came up there, and I would be curious to see if that reveals anything to you, if it reaffirms, if it validates, if it reveals anything about yourself. Love, lovely, awesome, Tab. Mary says love and care for others. Beautiful, I love it. Heal, nice. Yeah, heal. I got that one too. Ashley. To be a mom. Oh, wow, beautiful. That's really cool. Yeah, I love seeing these. So that little demonstration, Rebecca says, shine a light into this world. Awesome. I love it. Quick, instinctual answers. Boom. Those little knowings. Those are examples of how intuitive information will arise claircognizantly. Just going to be a clear knowing. You just know that you know it. I was doing a reading earlier, and the person I was reading for had a very strong intuitive senses that they were doubting quite a bit. And I was getting it very clear that this person really gets very strong intuitive hits, and part of the lesson they are working through right now is learning to trust it. So one of the things that can be difficult is learning how to trust these hits when they come. But hopefully that little exercise we just did can be a demonstration. It can kind of tune you into how quickly, how confidently information can arise. So the next time you're out there and you get a hit like that, you're having a discussion with somebody, you're working on a project, and something just kind of comes up and you're like, ooh, that didn't feel right. Pay attention to it. It's going to arise just in that same way, and it's a really good thing to follow up on that. And it's trial and error. It's becoming aware of it, and the way we sharpen and trust these intuitive senses is just by becoming aware and then following it and saying, I want to see if that pans out. What was that little feeling I got all about, Deanna says to be a dental hygienist, and that is what I do. Perfect. There you go. Yes, everybody's got a role. We're here to do what we're here to do. I love it. Okay, folks, so that's claircognizance, all right? That works through the crown chakra. You've probably heard people talk about getting a download, that they were in a meditation and they get a download. Well, that's kind of where that comes from. It's almost like, it really is like as if information was just kind of like downloaded into our consciousness, and we're like, oh, all of a sudden I get it. So crown chakra and also the heart, directly through the heart. So that's where when we talk about following your heart, trusting your instincts, focusing on your heart center. If this was a strong thing for you, if that answer came up really easily for you, there's a chance that this might be a really strong center. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to your heart center when you're intuitively feeling into a question or a situation, and see what arises. All right, moving along. Okay, let's talk about now the next chakra down. So we're gonna move down into the third eye chakra. And the third eye center is responsible for psychic ability, psychic insight, visioning, creative visioning. It's a highly intellectual chakra, but it very much is dominated by visual elements. So people who have an aptitude for filmmaking, for art, for graphic design, for architecture, people who are visual, very visual learners or visual people, visual creators, very often are very strong in the third eye center. So this is a realm that is going to work with dreams. So if you have an active dream life, this might be a very strong intuitive sense for you. If, you'll also see movies and daydreams, like vivid memories, photographic memory, symbols. So when we're working with this, the third eye center, and we're working with clairvoyance, which means clear seeing. Clairvoyance is a visual, it's basically a visual language that we're working with. So as we were discussing a little bit earlier, you might be, in meditation, seeking guidance or wisdom, and images pop into your mind, right? You might see a daydream or like what looks like a little allegory, right? Because a lot of times some of the stuff I get in my readings is I'll get information that comes almost like a daydream, and it looks, there's just got all this visual imagery, and then I have to break down the symbolism, just like my dad and I did on the dream night. There's that, and there's also like vivid imagery that comes through. So for those of you who tune in on Thursday nights, you probably hear me say this a lot. A lot of times the first information that comes through is visual. I will get some sort of a visual thing. So like last week, I think it was a reading for Angie, and I was getting bees. I was very clearly seeing like a bee, and that was something that was connecting to Angie. A few weeks ago, there was very clear visuals of like the Grand Canyon and Red Rocks. Those were visual elements that I brought through that connected with somebody very specifically that I was reading for. So for those of you who maybe have a film background or photography or art or something like that, maybe you have a vivid dream life, this might be a very strong intuitive sense for you. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and take a couple clearing breaths, and then I'm going to take you through a visual demonstration, and I'll be curious to see how many of these very easily arise for you, okay? So go ahead and close your eyes. We're going to take 3 big deep breaths. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale. Just clearing your mind, settling in the here and now. Another big deep breath in. Exhale. One more time, big deep breath in. Exhale. And now I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to see if you can create these images in your mind. So the first thing, see if you can visualize your childhood home and what that looks like. Take a big deep breath in. We're going to clear that out. Release. Next, I want you to imagine a flag of any kind and see if you can visualize that, the colors. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale. Next, I want you to imagine your dream home and see if you can visualize what that looks like. Or dream vacation. It can be an environment. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale, release. And next, I want you to just pick a symbol or a sign or a logo that has significance to you. Any of them at all. Anything that pops into your mind. A symbol, a sign, a logo that has meaning to you. Take a big deep breath in, clear that out. Exhale, release. Very good. Okay. So let me know if you got 3 out of 4, 4 out of 4 of those. Let me know if you got 75%. If that was an easy task for you, go ahead and let me know. Let me know which ones you could see pretty clearly or vividly. I'll be very curious. So if you were able to see 3 or 4 out of 4, there's a really good chance that your intuitive information may come to you in visuals, or it may come to you in symbols. It may come to you in imagery, and it'll be very similar to the way that we just created those images in our mind right now. Cheryl says, okay, this is interesting to me. I can visualize all of them, but with my eyes open. That's totally okay. Yeah, that's totally okay. I tend to close my eyes and go inward for clarity, especially when I'm reading. I personally find that physical stimulation sort of draws me out a little bit, and my sense might not be as sharp in terms of my visual and my hearing, right? My feelings are kind of always on, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. But Cheryl, that's not too strange. It's cool that you can visualize them. Totally works, with your eyes open too. That's really cool. Mary could see them all. Tab, I knew that would be easy for Tab. Super visual person. He's my filmmaking and photograph mentor. Learned so many great things from Tab. Rebecca says, I can see them all and some quicker. Okay, so the cool part is, it sounds like a lot of these were working for people. The way that those arise for you, this is very much how intuitive impressions arise. Sometimes they can be a little more subtle, and I will just say that from my experience, that I'm a very visual person. I totally have a photographic memory. I pretty much made it through school because I could see my notes in my head and I could see the board that the teacher wrote on. Like that, I swear, like that is how I got through school. I didn't study. I could just kind of like see what was written down in front of me at some point, and that's how I was able to get by. So for those of you who are visual people, your information may come through in this way, and it might just be a little more subtle than what we just did, because we kind of manufactured them. We asked, we created them with our mind. I do find that intuitive information can sometimes arise. I always use the word emerge, because I feel like the intuitive information got so much stronger for me when I was able to really get quiet and be still. And those impressions, like we just discussed, they occur in a similar way, but there's a bit of an emergence. It's almost like as it was embossed. That's how it feels to me. And I'm just trying to convey this and give language to something that's pretty indescribable, in my opinion. But I'm trying to give language to it to help you and guide you in your own self-study of these intuitive senses. So there you have it. If you got 3 or 4 out of these and they were pretty strong for you, there's a good chance that your intuitive information comes through visually. So when you sit in meditation or you're talking to somebody and you might get an image or a symbol, you might get something, you actually might see stuff that doesn't quite, it doesn't jive or doesn't fit right, or maybe you start to see something, people start to tell you a story and your mind wanders and you're creating the characters, right? There's a good chance that you might be really tapping into something there. So pay attention to it. Really cool. Deanna says, I see them all, but the last one is a little slower. Okay, that's all right. That is okay. Cheryl says, I'm wondering how many of the visual intuitive are daydreamers? Probably a lot. Probably a lot, truthfully. I'd imagine a lot of people who are visually intuitive are daydreamers and artists, I think that's a really strong theme for people that share that intuitive sense. Okay, so there is clairvoyance, a very, very common intuitive sense. Next, let's go ahead and work our way down into the throat chakra. We're now going to talk about clairaudience. Clairaudience means clear hearing. And this is an intuitive sense that is very strong with people who are musicians, people who are writers, teachers, professors, lecturers, people who have a talent for poetry, actors, comedians. The throat chakra governs communication and rhythm and alignment, spiritual alignment. So clear hearing is clairaudience, and this is about being able to hear intuitively. And I'm going to take you through a little exercise. This for me has been a very strong intuitive sense my entire life. When I began meditating in my teens, I discovered that when I meditated and I would ask questions, I would get this very reassuring, kind, gentle sort of inner voice that would comfort me, would guide me, would answer and respond to questions that I had, and I would channel and journal with this, this kind of this voice of what I call loving awareness. Upon deeper study and exploration, I realized what I was doing was really kind of channeling intuitive information clairaudiently or through clear hearing. So for me, it works for people who buy the book. I send off a channeled letter or a little note. I literally, it sounds like dictation. So sometimes when I'm doing readings, I will get words, or sentences or phrases that come through that are offering guidance. When I get into a meditative state and I begin to journal, I will download almost like I'm taking direct dictation. So this is a really strong intuitive sense for me personally. I've been working with it since I was a teenager. And for those of you who are writers, who are poets, who are musicians, actors, performers, comedians, there's a good chance that this could be a very strong intuitive sense for you. So we're gonna go ahead and do a little demo of this and kind of see how it works. So we're gonna take those 3 big clearing breaths now. Go ahead and close your eyes if you like. If not, that's okay too. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale and just kind of clear your mind and settle into the here and now. Another big deep breath in. Exhale, release. One more time, getting nice and quiet. Big deep breath in. Exhale, release. Now, first, I want you to count from 1 to 10 in your own voice, in your head. Count from 1 to 10 now. Now, I want you to choose the voice of a mentor, a loved one, someone special to you who's sort of unforgettable, right? And now I want you to have them say your name, your full name, and that they love you in their voice. Go ahead and do that now. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale. We're going to clear that out. Next, I want you to pick your favorite movie or cartoon character, and I want you to see if you can recreate them saying one of your favorite, lines or catchphrases or telling a joke, something like that in your head, in their voice. See if you can imagine your favorite movie character or a cartoon character saying something funny or one of their famous taglines. See if you can create that for yourself now. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale, release. And last, but certainly not least, your favorite song. Can you imagine what it sounds like? Go ahead and give it about a 10-second play in your mind. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale, release. Beep, 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 beep. That's all, folks. All right, folks. So how did that work for you? Mine was Porky Pig. That's all, folks. Let me know how those worked for you. How many were you able to get? Did you get 1, 2, 3, 4 of those? How easy was it for you to kind of tune in and tap into that? I would love to know how the clairaudience demonstration worked for you. So I would love to hear how many you connected with, what stood out, how it emerged for you. Again, this is one for me that's really, really strong because I began channeling so young as a teenager. But it's funny because when I was doing my thing as a child actor, one of the things that I was able to do well was imitations. I used to imitate cartoon characters or people, and that would get me auditions, that would get me jobs because I could do imitations. And that comes down to this ability, right, to hear and then recreate what you hear through your voice. So if you're someone who does impersonations or you can do imitations and stuff like that, there's a good chance that this is a really strong intuitive sense. So Tab says, yep, all of them easy. Rebecca says that one's harder for me. Okay. Ashley says all of them easily. So for those of you who are getting these easily, love the one having my loved one say I love you. Okay, and I did that for a very specific reason. So a couple lessons here. For those of you who did all those easily, know that your intuitive information, that your guidance very often can come through in this way. So if you're in meditation and you're seeking guidance, or if you feel like you're getting inspiration, words of wisdom that are kind of emerging, that are coming through in a moment, if this was an easy task for you, this exercise was easy for you. There's a good chance your information comes through that way, so pay more attention to the inspiration and the wisdom that arises in this manner. To Cheryl's note about, I love the one having my loved one say I love you. So much love in that sentence. I had you do this one because, to me, in my experience, the voice of loving awareness, the voice of guidance, the voice of spirit, the voice of God, the voice of our higher self of loving awareness and wisdom comes through very much in this way, that it's a loving, reassuring, and comforting voice. So it's something else I wanted to turn you on to, so that if you dive deeper into this exploration of the intuitive senses and working with this and learning how to really decipher what's intuitive information that is being offered up to help guide you, and what is like mind noise or the monkey mind chattering away. The one thing I want to really mention is that the voice of loving awareness and intuition always arises in a comforting, calm, and a reassuring, in a very loving way, much like the loved one that I had you say your own name, right? People can often get this stuff confused, what comes through clairaudiently, with like their thoughts or again, their monkey mind. And the one thing I will say, that the way we begin to decipher the difference is that the voice of loving awareness, the voice of our intuition, is very calm, it's very reassuring, it's comforting, and it's always compassionate. The voice of ego, the voice of chattering thoughts, the voice of monkey mind can be judgmental, it can be divisive, it can be demeaning, it can be I don't want to say self-deprecating, because that can be like, self-deprecation can be kind of fun, but it could be self-negating, you know. It can be more calloused, it can be harsher and more critical. The voice of loving awareness, intuition, isn't so critical. So that's something something I want to offer up to help you distinguish between intuition when it arises and what can be anxious thoughts or monkey mind chattering, if that makes sense. Mary says, all but the last one was harder for me because of background interruption. Okay, that's fair. Deanna says, not so good, but I'm deaf in my left ear. Oh, interesting. Does physical impairment of any kind affect a chakra? That is a great question. And very often, physical manifestations, such as like deafness, for example, are sort of the last manifestation of stuff happening in subtle energy, like at the subtle level. So in terms of the way energy manifests itself, we kind of have the subtle energy body, we have an emotional energy body, we have like a mental energy body, and then we have the physical energy body. So moving from more subtle to more gross and material is how energetic, we'll call them disruptions or flow, manifest. It may not necessarily affect going in, like what any kind of chakra stuff, doing chakra work is always gonna be helpful. But I would be curious. We're going like really deep now into like, you know, when did it arise? You know, how did it happen? Obviously, physical things can impair us, like physical experiences. But if we're gonna get like really get into the woo of it all, then we're starting to get into like energy and stuff that manifests through multiple lifetimes, energy that we're carrying with us into this lifetime that manifests a certain way because maybe it's to help us learn a lesson or something. We could go really far with that. But as far as like your ability not being able to hear the left ear, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't have intuitive experiences. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to disrupt kind of the flow of energy in that chakra. But if it's been like a lifetime thing, you might not have any kind of like frame of reference. So that's another thing about our intuition that I think sometimes gets misunderstood, is that our intuition and our language with our intuition really is only as broad. I should say it's as broad or as limited as our experiences. So you might be getting information intuitively, but if you don't have a language to decipher it or a point of reference, then it's kind of like moot, right? Anybody who's ever had to communicate across language barriers, I've been learning Spanish the last couple of years. My whole mom's side of the family speaks Spanish. They're from Cuba. A couple of years ago, I went to France. Having to communicate across language barriers can be really tough, right? And so if you don't have a basic understanding of anything, I go to France, and if I didn't learn any of the basics, I literally would not have been able to communicate, because they're just going to say stuff. And even if I can hear it and decipher the syllables and sort of where the words are placed, the spacing and the rhythm, I still don't really have a point of reference, right? But if I know Latin, if I know a little bit of Latin, or I know the root words, I might be able to pick up on root words that are based in Latin, because now I have a frame of reference. I very much consider our intuition like a language. So, for example, Deanna, I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but like if you've never had physical hearing in that left ear, in a way there's like no point of reference, right? So there's a good chance that you might not really ever get something sounding like it comes from over there. You're probably going to hear it the way you would normally hear it, just because that's how your body, your being knows how to process information. If that makes sense. So that is clairaudience. A very interesting intuitive sense, but one that's very strong, obviously, with a lot of people in the group. Cheryl says that's very helpful. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so now I want to go into, born with it. Interesting. It would be interesting, Deanna, that you say that, like, to go into meditation, because this is something that I do. If I have pain or something's coming up, and I'll literally go into a session, and I'll go into the chakra center, I'll meditate on that center, and ask, why is this? Why is this arising now? Where does it come from? And you'll get answers. Like, you'll totally get answers. It's a really fun exercise to do, because I think we take for granted how much we can dialogue with ourselves, how much our body and our awareness holds so much information. Ancient traditions forever. It's a center of what I love to share is, hey, all the answers are inside of us. We have the answers if we seek them. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened. A very wise master once said. Deanna says, my other physical senses are heightened because of it. Yeah. So that's interesting. So I bet, your other intuitive senses are also heightened because of it, because you're already more tuned in, so to speak. You're already more sensitive. So I would bet that other intuitive senses are going to be a little stronger, because you're already really tapped in that way. So this is a good segue into the next one, which is a combo of two chakras. So the solar plexus, I'm going to stand up. The solar plexus is right here, just a couple inches above the belly button, and then just a couple inches below the belly button in the sacral chakra. These two energy centers govern clairsentience, or what is known as clear feeling. So for anybody who considers themselves an empath or energy sensitive, or you like feel people's stuff, you take on their energy, this is very much an intuitive sense that is probably strong for you. I will say that we've done 3 so far. This is the 4th main one that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to briefly go over a couple others that are much less common, and I don't know as much about them because they're not very active in me. So I don't really want to make it a habit of talking about stuff that I don't really know deeply and experience. So I'm not going to get into them too much, but clairsentience is clear feeling. And what I have found as I was on the road and doing the workshops is that pretty much everybody is like way more clairsentient than they imagine. So, when we do these live, I have everybody like give a thumbs up or raise their hand once they've done each one of the examples. This one, almost everybody gets 10 out of 10 because we're way more in tune with our physical body than we are necessarily the upper the upper chakras, right? They're usually not as fine-tuned unless we've been doing a bit of work there if we're really tuned into them naturally. So we're gonna get into clairsentience, and this is all about feelings. So everybody's connected to their feelings, everybody's connected to their body, but people who are physical, like athletes, ballet dancers, those kinds of people, yogis, people who are into the body, who are very connected to the body, this can very often be a very strong intuitive sense. But like I said, as I found, because we're so in our body, and for a lot of us, part of our work is to get, bring more and more of the upper chakra energy into balance with the rest of it. This is one we're usually very connected to. So this one, we're talking about feelings. We're talking about gut instincts. Somebody's got weird vibes. Somebody's got great vibes. We all use that language colloquially. Did I say that right? Blah, 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 blah. Say it 5 times fast. Colloquially. This is a very common intuitive sense for us. So I'm gonna walk us through another demonstration and see how tapped in you feel to this. And we're gonna begin by just closing our eyes. We're gonna take 3 big clearing breaths and really turn our awareness inward, and we're gonna get really connected to our body and our feelings. Take a big deep breath in. Exhale, release. Take a big deep breath in. Release. One more time, big deep breath in. Release. And first, I want you to imagine what it feels like to give a hug to someone you really care about. See if you can create that feeling in your body. Take a big deep breath in. We're going to clear this out. Breathe in. Exhale, release. Next, I want you to imagine what it feels like to be in a room with someone that you really don't vibe with. Could be someone you don't get along with, you really don't like. And just see if you can create that feeling of what it feels like to be in a room with them. See how your body responds. Take a big deep breath in, clear this out. Exhale, release. Next, I really want you to connect with the feeling of accomplishment or pride and joy in something that you've achieved for yourself that you're really, really just proud of. A crowning achievement. And just connect with what that feeling and that sensation in your body, what that's like. To feel joy and fulfillment, a sense of deep satisfaction and pride. Take a big deep breath in, go ahead and clear this out. Exhale, release. Finally, I want you to imagine what it feels like when you've been lied to or betrayed. What does that feel like in your body? Take a big deep breath in, clear this out. Exhale, release. Let it wash away, and go ahead now and let me know how that worked for you. I keep trying to grab my hat. Let me know how that went for you. How many of those were you able to create? How many of those sensations did you connect to? And which ones were strongest? I would love to know how that little demonstration worked for you. I very purposely went through these sort of contrasting feelings for a couple of reasons. One, this is an exercise and a demonstration in how intuitive feelings or how clairsentience might arise if you are, you can be pretty much doing anything. But if you're seeking guidance or information in a meditation, which is kind of my preferred safe, controlled space to seek wisdom, it may come through in that way, right? So this is a way to kind of tune you into your feelings and these kind of roller coaster of in contrast of emotions and feelings in the body and how it works. The other reason I wanted to show you these or demonstrate or have you open up to these, Tab said all these came really fast. Mary says it worked. Very cool. The other reason I wanted to tune you into these feelings specifically is because these can be very simple reference points for you moving forward. And so as you move through your day-to-day life, as you engage with people and you create projects or you go to work and you do things around the house, all that stuff, what we just did, that feeling, that sense, is a great sort of calibration, right? First, we got a sense of what it's like to be around someone that we love and that we really resonate with, somebody that feels safe to us, and we created that sensation and we allowed that to emerge, right? So like Tab said, that came really fast. Mary says it worked. Deanna says the positive vibe, she reached out, and negative totally pulled in and away. So very interesting that you noticed the difference in the feelings. And so the reason I'm demonstrating this to you is because we can actually follow these feelings as soon as we meet people or as soon as we step into a situation. That feeling that you get that feels really expansive, like you're in the company of someone that's loving and kind, right? And safe, versus being in a space with someone you don't resonate with. We don't really have to know why. We don't have to know. We might seek to find out, or we might discover, but we could meet a total stranger and get that same feeling that we got, that we just created for ourselves. If we're able to tune in and become aware of that, it's something that we can pay attention to the next time you go to work, the next time you're in a negotiation, the next time you're walking down the street and something feels kind of funny. Like, these are things this is our intuition speaking to us. So if we can learn to get really connected to these things, become more self-aware, as Tab likes to talk about, being really open, right? If we're really open to the give and take of energy, to the exchange of energy taking place at a subtle, subconscious, unconscious level, you can literally walk into a room and have any one of the 4 experiences that we just had and know, that kind of felt like when somebody lies to me, or if somebody, I get that feeling when somebody's betraying me, or someone who has betrayed me, and that feeling kind of like crops up. Well, there's energy being exchanged. There's something present that's pushing that button, so to speak. So I like to offer these feelings up because they're like a really good baseline for us to become aware of and be like, okay, now I have a frame of reference. So when I first meet somebody, or I get into a room, or I go to pitch a project and I'm feeling the room or whatever, something arises and I'm like, I don't think that person's being straight with me. I don't know what it is. I don't know. That's that same feeling. And that's something that you can really pay attention to. And then, being an intuitive detective can follow up after the fact, or just pay attention more, right? As you're dealing with this interaction moving forward. These are all kinds of ways that our feelings can really serve us, and our intuition can serve us on a day-to-day basis. And it can work with everything from negotiating with people or relationships to like, what do I want to eat for dinner? Because I'm telling you right now that some days I just feel like my body wants to eat a certain kind of food, or my body feels like it doesn't want this other thing, right? The more we lean into that, the more we're open to it, the more we're really just open to the exchange of energy and the way that our body is speaking to us all the time. So also in the book Awakening Soul Force, I talk about body tuning. It's a little technique that I offer up, and it's really based on the premise that we are made up of trillions of little tiny awakened cells. They all have some sort of awareness, because if they didn't, our body would not respond to its environment and the stimulus that is all happening at an unconscious level. Our body regulates itself without us thinking about it. It responds to the hot and cold of the air without us thinking about it. So our body is aware, and inside every little living cell in our being is awareness. So one of the things that the body tuning talks about, and a lot of what comes up here in this clairsentience, is being open to the intelligence and the awareness of the body. So even if we can't rationally put our mind on what's going on, we might very much in our feelings get stuff, and that's why sometimes there's a disconnect. We're like, I just don't know why this just doesn't feel right. Looks fine, logically it checks all the boxes, but doesn't feel okay. The other thing I will say is that for people who are water signs, so that would be Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, like myself, this is going to probably be like a very strong intuitive sense. You know what? Now that I think about it, to refine this presentation a little, I think I'm going to also include astrology because that's kind of fun. But I think certain astrological signs are going to have a sort of built into their astrological DNA, sort of a predisposition to certain intuitive senses. So that would be an interesting thing to add to this. So there you have it. Clairsentience runs through the solar plexus and the sacral chakras. This is about our feelings. So kind of an interesting thing. Cheryl says, I felt all of them. This is something I've been working on, specifically identifying the energy I feel with the emotions. Yes, yes, yes. Excellent, Cheryl. Excellent, yes. On the road to mastery, I see. Very cool. I love that. So much of, in my opinion, of this is about self-awareness. Being intuitive is really like learning how to bridge the gap between thoughts, rhythms, inspirations, images, feelings, knowings that arise, learning how to bridge the gap between the occurrence and like the knowledge and understanding of what it is and where it comes from. So a lot of it is about self-awareness. So, that goes back to what we were just doing with clairsentience, really being like, oh, this is what it feels like when something's expansive, when something's safe, when it's loving. We did it with the clairaudience, with hearing somebody talk to you in a voice that's loving, somebody that loves you, what that sounds like. Well, that has a certain vibration. It has a certain resonance. We can work with all of these intuitive senses together, and really that's kind of what's happened for me. I've always been an intuitive person, but the more I opened up to it, the more I opened up to energy, to this capability and this sensitivity within myself, which we all have. We all have these intuitive senses. It's just how open we are to the information that they're picking up is really up to us. And that's where meditation can be helpful. That's where a good diet, good exercise, moving your body, energy flow is really, really important. So I won't go into too deep a detail here. Again, the chakra chapters in the book, Awakening Soul Force, covers a lot of that stuff. But really what we're talking about here, intuition, is about energy flow and our ability to recognize it and become aware of it. So those are the four main intuitive senses: clairvoyance, which is clear seeing; claircognizance, which is clear knowing, that comes through the heart center, the crown; clairaudience, which is clear hearing. This has to deal with communication, so this is words and music and inspiration that can come through the throat chakra. And then we have clairsentience, which is solar plexus and the sacral chakra. There's a couple others that I'm going to mention here. Again, I'm not that familiar with these, in the sense that they've only come up a couple times. So the first one I'm going to talk about is clairgustance. Clairgustance is clear tasting. So this is governed by the sacral chakra, and this is when you can taste stuff that isn't physically there. I've had this at least one time that I can remember because it was kind of a funny thing. I was reading for someone and I felt like I could taste blueberries. And I think this is the only time that this happened. And I said, hey, I'm getting blueberries. What's the deal with blueberry? And I'm like, and specifically it tastes like blueberry pie. What's the deal with blueberry pie? And she says, oh, she's like, I kind of have been known to, my friends make fun of me because I've been known to just eat a whole blueberry pie all by myself, randomly. And apparently it had just happened on a weekend getaway. So that was kind of the only time that taste came through for me. But people who maybe are chefs or good cooks, bakers, if you kind of have a talent for that, or if you have a real interest and you're really good at that, clairgustance, clear tasting is a way that intuitive information might come through for you. Clairalience is another one, which is clear smelling. This is also another one I've only had a couple times. I can recall two specific occasions when this came through. I was doing a reading for someone who was on a vacation in the jungles of Thailand. And when I did the reading for them, and I'm like, I am smelling lots of wet grass and humidity, and I could smell it, and it was nasty. That was one time, and the other one was Vicks Vapor Rub. I was reading for someone, and I said, I'm getting Vicks Vapor Rub. I don't know what this is about. And she told me, she validated that she uses Vicks Vapor Rub to calm herself when she has anxiety that she uses. So that was something that came up. I feel like that's the only 2 times that I could smell something. But this is known as clairalience, and it's connected to the root chakra. Our root chakra is essentially responsible for our physical survival. So it's like the most basic of our physical senses. Mary says taste and smell sometimes. Yeah, I feel like, I don't know what it is. I feel like women have like a super strong sense of smell. And part of me feels like there's got to be something to this, a connection between feminine embodiment and kind of the being really connected to like the root and the sacral chakras, because these are kind of like divinely feminine areas. It's kind of like the earth mother, right? I know so many women that have like a really strong, keen sense of smell. So it looks like we're getting, I think you all are verifying at least something that I've noticed. So yeah, these are not strong for me, but these might be really strong for you guys. So I wanted to bring them up just in case. It is not a strong thing for me, but if scent's strong for you, if you are really good with essential oils, if you're good with perfumes or scents, you can just smell things from a mile away. I remember my mom being able to detect, like, we lived out on a, kind of in a more rural area, and we had propane on the property. And I know sometimes she'd be like, oh, I can smell propane. And I don't think anybody else could smell it, but she could, If you've got a nose like that, this could be a strong intuitive sense for you. You can be really connected to this. This is connected to the root chakra. And then finally, the last one is clairtangience. And clairtangience, you've probably seen this like on psychic TV shows or in Hollywood, where a psychic puts their hands on something, like they grab a watch, or they pick up something that the person owned and they hold it and they get all this psychic information. It's also known as psychometry. Some of you may maybe do this. I know some people who are like hands-on healers that when they put their hands on somebody, they start to get like intuitive information. This is called clairtangience or clear touching, and it's connected to the heart chakra. So because our heart chakra is also, I mentioned the healing hands because our heart chakra is responsible for healing energy. So for anybody that does Reiki, or if you're a chiropractor or a massage therapist, or you do any kinds of hands-on healing work, that energy flows very strongly through the heart center. It's also responsible for this intuitive sense for anybody who has maybe had that experience. So there we go. All this talk about scents got my nose itching kind of funny. Maybe that's just allergies from the hike today. I'm not sure. I don't know. All right, folks, that's the class. That's the breakdown of the intuitive senses. I would love to know if y'all have any questions. Now is the time to ask. You can fire them off to me. I would love to answer any questions about intuition that you have. I will wrap this up by saying that we all have these intuitive capabilities, and they can all be sharpened. I will say this. I don't say a lot of things with absolute certainty, because everything's always evolving and things are ever changing. But I can pretty much say with absolute certainty, a gateway into a deeper understanding of your intuitive senses and to becoming more intuitive and sensitive yourself is meditation. Hands down, I don't know if there's any other sort of a more natural and simple pathway into becoming more aware and sensitive than through meditation. Because we turn off all the stuff, we learn how to become self-aware. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our intuition is about becoming more self-aware, understanding what arises, being able to name it and claim it, where it's coming from, what it's connected to. All of those things are so much easier with meditation. Meditation definitely makes us more sensitive, because when we can get used to being in a silent, still place, we kind of come on in a way. When we're being mindful, mindfulness meditations are all about awareness, right? And so that's an act of opening up all of the channels and just becoming sensitive and aware. To become mindful is to just become conscious and connected and aware of your environment. And we can turn that awareness outward, we can turn it inward. But I will just say, if you are working with your chakras, if you are working with energy, if you'd like to deepen your understanding of intuition, meditation to me is like the gateway. There's other gateways. This was my gateway into it. It's what's worked for me, but it's also something that we all have access to, right? some people have kind of psychic awakenings because of a traumatic experience. They might have a near-death experience. They might have a massive kind of ego death where like life just kind of, their who and what they are, their identity gets stripped away and they're ripped down and so sensitive and vulnerable that they have no choice but to kind of awaken to this sensitivity. Those things all happen. But meditation is definitely a gateway into being more sensitive and understanding and more communicative with your intuition. So doesn't look like we have any questions. Oh, Victoria said, I smell sense. What is that called? Smelling is clairalience. Clear smelling. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Mary, so much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you, Deanna. Yeah, it is really cool. I'm glad. I can't wait to send you the book. I'll send it off. I'll probably be able to get it out tomorrow. I have a fairly free day tomorrow before the afternoon, but I should be able to get that out tomorrow. So I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. I appreciate you so much. If you enjoyed tonight's live, you got something out of it, I would really appreciate a donation if you're up for it at the Bomberger on Venmo. Any amount will do. If not, that's totally okay too. No obligation, but I do want to offer it up out there. This was what I was doing on the road, doing workshops on this stuff before COVID hit. So I would really appreciate it if you have the opportunity. That would be great. We're going to be back tomorrow night for the live readings. So I'm going to be doing a demonstration of all the stuff we just talked about tonight. It's a chance to watch all that intuitive sense in action and how I sort of interpret and communicate it as it comes. So tomorrow will be a great kind of follow-up to what we talked about tonight. So then you can watch me and my process. I tend to try and be very communicative about my process so that for those of you who are working with this in your own time and way, are hopefully learning as we go, and we're all learning together. Because I learn stuff every week. It's pretty cool. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. I'm losing my voice. I need water. I'm going to take a break, but I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night for our Thursday night readings. Adios.